So this was just, we thought we'd cover a couple of topics related to veganism and Christianity, and just Barry's, personal journey in that vein.
All in 20 minutes.
Yeah, we maybe have a little bit in our earlier interviews, but maybe just you could say a few words about something you mentioned to me the other day. Was, you attend a Christian church. You're very involved in the Christian church, and
Right.
you see a lot of illness, and I would imagine it's very frustrating because the health benefits of being vegan, and there seems to be a kind of, tell me if I'm wrong, a kind of resistance within Christian circles towards veganism, perhaps because there's this popular notion that veganism is associated with other left-wing or perhaps kind of lifestyles that people wouldn't necessarily accept in a Christian environment. I don't know if is that accurate?
I think it's more this idea that animals are really man's property to do with as he pleases. I think that's a little bit more a more common notion that God gave animals to man, and we can make use of them however we want. And it's unfortunate because a lot of there's a lot of, when you really look at the Bible, there's a lot of health promoting stuff in there that people tend to kind of just ignore. And a couple of them that I'll mention are fasting, which I think one thing I talked with you earlier about is Christians and spiritual people in general, they all pray a lot. That's kind of like a central part of the religion, but almost nobody fasts. And if you read the Bible, there's fasting everywhere in the Bible. Whenever any spiritual person wanted something important to happen in their life, they would fast. Why would they do that? Because it humbles you. That's how you humble yourself. That's really the only way to humble yourself, is through fasting.
Now that's interesting. Why do you think that is? Why do you think fasting is a humbling action?
Fasting. We should just do an entire call on fasting.
Yeah.
It has so many incredible. It just affects your body in so many incredible ways, and they're all positive. Now, if you watch any YouTube videos, there's hundreds of videos talking about the health benefits of fasting, right?
Right.
And there's something, fasting, it basically quiets your body. Everything slows down when you do a fast, right? And the idea is, if you're not eating, if you do a fast, you don't want to do a lot of very stressful activities. The basic idea is to do as little as possible and just reflect on yourself, on your life. It's kind of like your default behavior. If you're fasting, by default, you want to just relax, reflect. You just automatically get into a spiritual mode. And then your body goes through this incredible cleansing process.
Right. What comes to mind for me, there's an element of sacrifice in this. So if an individual is giving up food which is readily accessible, so this
Right.
is a choice. This is a choice to sacrifice something that would be, a normal daily activity. There's an element of giving up something for something.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true. And the thing about fasting is it's so, and this is one kind of topic I wanted to bring up with you and get your thoughts on. And I kind of can tie this into the vegan diet a little bit and fruitarianism. Everything in our society the goal is always more of whatever it is. You always want more money. You want to have more experiences. If you're into traveling, you want to travel to more places. You want to have as many friends as possible. You want to have, it's always about things that you're doing, all right? And, that's the way our whole society is set up. It's basically kind of a consumption mentality. You want as much of life as possible.
Would you say
And
that's an American principle, a Western principle, or now a global principle? Do you think that's human nature?
well, it's definitely an American principle, and there's so many countries that are kind of seek to imitate what the United States is doing. So it's definitely China's mentality. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that's I don't think that's the way it's always been everywhere for all cultures. I think a lot of cultures, especially if you look at like Hinduism and India, they have a much less kind of consumerist mindset. And
You're reminding me of a interesting historical story. You probably know this. Alexander the Great was moving further and further east, and he eventually came to India.
right,
And in his circles, he heard about this very wise, impressive figure. And so Alexander invited this guy to come into Alexander's presence. And the
okay.
guy said no. The guy said no. I don't have any interest in that. He was like a renunciate. He was like a monk.
Yeah.
And so Alexander started to get, upset, furious. And eventually Alexander went to meet him. And it was just, it's kind of what you were saying reminded me of it. He just, this didn't mean anything to the monk. The trappings of power, military might, authority, wealth. None of these things interested him, and it left. It's the great equalizer.
Yeah, it's a very foreign idea to Americans. I mean, to think that you have a life with very little, that's like, wow, that doesn't sound like something anyone would want. We all want as much as we can possibly have. And the reason I kind of think about this is because I think when you get into veganism, and especially when you get into fruitarianism, when you start eating a lot of fruit, all right, I don't want to start sounding like like a wingnut here, but when you start eating a lot of fruit, you start looking around at a lot of products as ridiculous, as unessential. Like a lot of things don't really make sense to you anymore. A lot of products that you just end up. Maybe it's just me, but I think it's all people who start eating a lot of fruit. Is a lot of things just seem totally unnecessary. Like, I mean, I'll just give you an example. Like a lot of personal health and beauty kind of products just seem unnecessary, like shampoo or soap or toothpaste. These things, I know I'm going to sound a little crazy here, but if you're eating a lot of fruit, you don't need any of those products. Your body, you just don't need those things.
Well,
And it's not
that's
like it's not
that's
like I'm not a dirty person. I'm a very clean person, all right? I'm not like a Rastafarian here. I'm just saying that when you start eating a lot of fruit, fruit is so clean in your body. And, everything that you eat kind of comes out of your body at some point or another. You are what you eat. When you're eating a lot of fruit, everything that's coming out of your body, it just smells a lot better. It's a lot cleaner. And so you just don't need a lot of stuff.
all
So
right.
it starts affecting your whole view of the world.
All right. I want to say one thing. There's probably a lot of clean Rastafarians, but there may not. I think, but I get the point you're making.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and that's a huge part of the economy. Those are huge factors if you start to add up to 300 million people. I
Yeah.
mean, it's hard to get your head around how huge that is.
Yeah.
You're probably familiar with Will Tuttle, this author of the World Peace Diet.
I haven't read the book, but I do know him, and I've seen some presentations of his. He's great.
He's really good, and I got a chance to interview him, and because of this
Wow.
idiotic software of mine, I lost the whole interview.
Oh no.
But one of the really cool things that came out in the interview is that, you know, as I usually do, I asked him about health and ethics and environment, and he kind of talked about the fact that this is much more. When you're talking to people about veganism, it's much more than those things. And he was suggesting that you're kind of getting at the root of what you're talking about. It's like consumption, your role in society. And that's part of the reason that there's such resistance to veganism. At least that was the suggestion I got from what he was saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, once you go to the vegan diet, then you start reflecting on, how is meat produced? What impact does that have on the environment? I think I mentioned that documentary Cowspiracy. I've made videos on some of the shocking facts about Cowspiracy.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Well, maybe you can shed some light on this for me, Barry, because it seems to me that within the Christian community, especially in the United States, there's this there's an accepted principle of the accumulation of wealth as the normal desire of a Christian, and that perhaps it's acceptable to pray for wealth and to work for wealth, and it's somehow tied up with Americans' perceptions of themselves, this wealth and Christianity, and some of the things you're talking about, they're not. It's kind of walking away from that. It's kind of
there's this passage in the Bible, and so let me just boil something down up front really quickly. The benefit for me personally of Christianity is it's the example of Christ. Right? It's how he lived his life. That's the fruit of Christianity. When you study like the amazing way that he lived his life and try and incorporate those things into your own life, that's when you get the benefit of the religion. Okay. And so regarding wealth, Jesus was, had no property other than the shirt on his back. And in one of the Gospels, a rich man comes up to him and says, I want to follow you. I want to, I'm a believer and I want to just follow you and learn from you. And Jesus said, well, you have to get rid of all your property. Just give it all away and then come back and follow me. And the man leaves him because he loved his wealth. And, that's a problem that almost everyone has. It's a problem I have. Almost everyone has that problem, is that they can't let go of the material things in their life. And so Christianity has kind of just, anybody who studies the Bible knows what Jesus' view is, but that doesn't really work in our population. I mean, in the world, most people want to have wealth for security. And so, it's very tough. People want to be like Jesus, but they have this notion that it's basically impossible to be like Jesus. I mean, he was perfect, and we can never attain the level that he attained. So, we can't give up our material possessions because we're not, our faith isn't that strong. But you go to India and people are without possessions. I mean, if you go to India, I mean, a lot of like gurus in India are just walking around naked because they don't even want to have clothes as a material possession. They have no material possession whatsoever. So I think one thing that's very positive about veganism is it kind of plugs you back into this notion of getting rid of all the unnecessary stuff in your life. And I don't know what it is about the diet. I think when you attain a higher level of health, you become more independent and you have less of a need for security. When you're living in the world and you don't know why people are getting cancer, you don't know why people are getting heart disease, that's very scary. And you want to have a lot of security. And so people want to have as much health insurance as possible. They want to have enough money to take care of themselves and their family members. And when you kind of get out of that matrix and you see the truth, then it kind of totally changes your philosophy, your total philosophy of the world. Now, I mean, my philosophy is, as long as I continue to eat healthy, I keep feeling better and better. I've been at this diet for 3 years, and it's amazing. After 2 years, I felt fantastic. I feel better this year than I've ever felt in my entire life. And my diet, Paul, it's probably about 80% fruit and then about 20% cooked grain. I'm not eating raw, 100% raw. I'm eating about 80% raw. I still feel amazing. And I'm very particular about the cooked food I eat, but I think there is this over time, your body, the longer that you're on this diet, it's not. I don't think you plateau. I think you're going to keep having better and better health. At least I am.
You're reminding me of this Grant Campbell interview I did, where he had been raw for I think over a year, and then he did a fast, a pretty long fast, and he came out of that feeling better. So it's like, yeah, that's pretty amazing. I believe, it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's definitely, the two key things are, for me, I think it's fruit, and if you want to attain an unbelievable level of health, the two keys are fruit and fasting. And then maybe moderate exercise.
And did you say how are you doing your fasts? Are you kind of, when you feel like it, you do a 1-day fast? Is that how often does that occur?
Well, I was doing like 1 day to 1.5 days. I have to do a longer one. I've been doing mostly shorter ones, like a day to a day and a half. And I was doing that about every week. So 1 out of every 7 days, I do a 24-hour water-only fast.
Wow.
I'm running so much now. It's tough to, when you fast for a day and a half, you really need to rest like 3 days, because you got to recuperate after the fast. You can't like just fast and then go running.
Yeah.
Some people have a lot of energy, but I need some recuperation time.
And you don't run on the day that you fast, do you?
No. Yeah.
But you would go to work?
Yeah, I do go to work, but it's tough to, I don't know, I feel like it interferes with the fast.
Yeah.
My job is kind of stressful. It's
Yeah.
Like I said, you want to just relax and be spiritual. So
now, how long have you been incorporating the fasting into your regime?
I just started. And just to be clear, I've also, in addition to like these 24-hour fasts, I think that the thing that is really amazing, I've been doing a lot of intermittent fasting. And so basically what I'll do is I'll have dinner, and then I'll go from dinner to like usually 11 a.m. or 12 or noon the next day, and I won't eat. And I'll do that about 5 or 6 days a week. And it's pretty easy. You only get hungry, maybe about an hour. Your body gets used to it. It's really not a big deal at all. Because I was having this trouble where I would, I'd run early in the morning. I'd have, breakfast right after I ran. I just never felt like I felt like I was always digesting food, and my body, it just felt like it never got a rest. And ever since I've been doing the intermittent fasting, I've felt a lot better. And I've had no weight loss. I mean, this is not like a calorie restriction technique. That has nothing to do with it. I was thin before then. Had no desire to lose any weight. And so what I eat the same amount of calories, is just in a narrower window of when I'm eating. I'm only eating for like a 7-hour window each day. And it gives your body this break.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And do you just take a bunch of fruit with you to work?
Yeah, I just bring fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so simple. It's so simple.
Yeah, I mean, talk about not needing. I mean, minimalism with fruit. I don't do smoothies anymore, and I don't really do juicing. If you're just eating the whole fruit, some fruit you need to cut up, but I mostly eat bananas, dates, and citrus. I don't even need any utensil. I don't need a bowl. I don't need a plate. I don't need a fork or a knife. All right. I literally only need something to hold the fruit in.
God,
that's it.
You got to love the simplicity of it,
And seriously, you don't even need a napkin, because if you just have citrus on your hands, you don't even need to wipe your hands off. All right. I mean, that's how simple it is. You just take the fruit and you eat it. You don't need to blend it. You don't need to put, there's so many vegans make so many videos about juicing and making smoothies. And, I see these people making these smoothies. I'm like, just eat the fruit. You don't have to blend it. I don't know. And the reason I kind of started to run off on a tangent here is,
not at all.
I'm not into smoothies at all anymore, because when you take a piece of fruit and you put it in your mouth and you start chewing it, a process is starting in your body. Your saliva is produced in your mouth. It starts the digestive process in your mouth. The act of chewing changes your stomach. Your stomach gets into this digestive mode, and it's so important to be able to harvest all the nutrients that you eat. Okay, you want to have as much absorption of the food that you eat as possible. And I see these people eating like this enormous amount of fruit in smoothies, like putting ridiculous amounts of fruit into a smoothie. And I have a pretty high energy life. I do a lot of running. I run at least 20 miles a week, and I don't need to eat huge amounts of fruit. I mean, like, I'll have, it's, I'm not doing any calorie restriction. I eat as much as I want to eat. But lunch for me will be maybe 4 or 5 bananas, maybe 10 or 15 dates, and 4 or 5 clementines, or some oranges, or some citrus. So it's a good size lunch. But I think when you get away from the smoothies, you just eat the fruit naturally, you're going to absorb more of the fruit. The enzyme, you're going to have more digestive acid, stomach acid. I don't know how it happens, but I know the more natural you eat the fruit, the more you're going to absorb. That's my own personal experience.
Well, I think that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. I would say, for people that need variety, and it's challenging for them to maintain the lifestyle, something like a smoothie might help them. But I totally see your point, and I've had other people say that to me. I think there's some people, they get frustrated with all this smoothie making when you really don't need it.
I think it's like a transition. I had smoothies for a couple of years, but I think eventually you want to think about maybe just eating the fruit whole.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And you made me think too. This calorie restriction has almost become this term in this community that's so powerful. But perhaps we should say with that, you don't have to calorie restrict, neither do you have to calorie force.
Yeah.
I realize that perhaps people are not used to eating as much fruit as might be required to get their their needed caloric intake. But as soon as you get adjusted to that, having 5 or 6 bananas instead of one, or 4 mangoes instead of one, as soon as you kind of get that, you don't have to shoot for 10 bananas at every meal. You don't have to shoot for 15 bananas. You just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people who are doing fine on 2,000 to 2,500 calories. It's just.
The thing I would say there, Paul, is that there's just so many variables, and everybody's body is at a different place. And what works for Dorian Ryder and Freely, doesn't work for other people. It works for some people, but not for others. Because it depends, I mean, how clean is your body? I mean, have you just come off of the standard American diet? Then maybe you have to go with a lot of smoothies, or, everyone is different, and you have to listen to your body. Like, you can't just take a standard formula and say, this is how during 30 bananas a day, this is what's going to get me from being overweight to being thin. It doesn't work that way, because everybody does things differently. But I mean, the key things are: stop eating meat and dairy, stop eating processed food, eat fruits and vegetables, and have some moderate exercise. And then listen to your body about how much to eat. And your body will tell you, whether you're drinking it in a smoothie or eating the whole fruit, your body will tell you how much to eat.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. All right, Barry. We're going to leave it there for tonight.
All right, man.
We have many more topics to delve into. So,
well, this is a good talk. I mean, thanks. I think you stayed a little over late. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, Barry, and thank you for. I'm sorry I missed you last week. That I dropped the ball.
Yeah,
so
no
thanks
problem.
For
There's just more time to polish up my my game here.
I'm telling you, man, you presented that hemp thing like, I mean, you had all the info, man. That was pretty solid.
Yeah.
So
interesting stuff. It's very interesting.
It is. It is. All right, brother. And it's cool. We got this Google Hangout is now an option we have since we.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Hey, keep up all the great work on your channel.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Got to keep improving it. I got to get a better opening intro. So.
Yeah, the key thing is the guests. You get those great guests. I mean, the content is king, right?
Yeah.
The great content.
Yeah. Thank you.
Will Tuttle, you're killing me. Oh man.
I know. I'm hoping. I'm sure. He was very kind when I told him I lost the whole thing. So it's like I wasted an hour of his time, but maybe, God willing, he'll let me try it again. So anyway.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thanks a million, Barry.
Okay.
Take care.
All right.